Hey Austin, Duncan here. Just wanted to give you a response to your email. I apologize. I did start writing a response to that, and then I realized it was getting so long that I would record it as a video, and then it just completely blew out of my mind. So, my apologies again. So, I'm going to go through this kind of quick and just hit the high points of what I'm seeing here on this. And then if you want to talk about it more in depth, we can. So from the adrenal side, and I'm recording this video on my phone because I need to use both my monitors to look at these labs. So I apologize for the odd angle. So when we look at the adrenal test, so we're pretty much seeing a complete recovery of the adrenal output. Your cortisol was low before and it had this weird up down rhythm zag that we didn't want to see. And now, I mean, maybe the cortisol could come down a little bit in around noon. But yeah, I mean, this is pretty much precisely what I would want to see on a read test of the adrenals. So let's move over to some of the organic acids. When we look at your metabolomics, so the biggest thing that I see, so, if you have felt unwell since we last spoke, then it would appear from this lab that something acute has hit the gut. So like if I forget when we last talked, but you were doing, there was some stuff we were talking about wanting to, run these labs to kind of pivot and, make some further improvements. So some of the degrading symptoms or something that you've been having lately, I don't think I even knew about that. But anyway, something acute has hit the gut, and there's two possibilities there. First possibility is that you picked up something new out in the world doing something. But the second possibility you'll remember is when I talked to you originally about how when you have a really inflamed gut that's been inflamed for a long time, the villi get damaged, right? So there gets to be absorption issues. But then you get erosion of the crypts that sit between those villi. And some of these infections can go deep down in there and go cystic, and then they can be dormant. And, typically we see about a 90% clearance rate on infection, and we don't typically have to do like a second GI clearing. But occasionally, and I would say, like 10%, 15% of the time, you'll see this like second hit of gut stuff that happens. It usually happens somewhere around the 6-month mark after the completion of the original gut test. And that seems to be how long it takes for some of these dysbiotic organisms to blast out again. And so, it's possible that you're in that category. We really wouldn't know without that GI effects or a GI map to see what the actual infection is. But something is hitting the gut right now. Sorry, I'm going to be flipping between tests here. Diarabinitol's down a little bit, so it's now in the green. I wouldn't really be that concerned about that, but once again, that is something that's for Candida albicans, so that improved, but that is something that we should keep an eye on because a dysbiotic gut can lead to those changes. Let me just look at the metabolic markers. The metabolic markers all look pretty much fine, if not fine. Yeah, I mean, every single marker is in the green. All of All of our Bs are looking good, with the exception of a little bit of one of the biotin markers hasn't moved all that much. It's not even really that low, but that's another place where I don't see improvement. In terms of neurotransmitter function, sorry, they changed the order of a few of these markers. Okay, in terms of the neurotransmitter and brain-related stuff, so 5-hydroxyindyl acetate has actually come down from wait, hold on, let me make sure I'm looking at the right test. Did it go down or did it go? Okay, so when we look at our stuff here, so 5-hydroxyindyl acetate used to be up at a 17.9 burn rate, and that one did go up. So you'll remember that, and the reason I'm jumping straight to that marker is you remember that serotonin is created not just as a neurotransmitter, but it serves a function for gut motility within the gut. So when something comes along and acutely hits the gut and we see those dysbiotic numbers go up, then you'll often see 5-hydroxyindyl acetate go up. And it's not necessarily differentiating between the serotonin turnover in the brain from like stress or depression, which, obviously are things you struggle with anyway. But what we're probably seeing here is the gut, like affecting that serotonin. Homovanillate, vandamandylate, they look good. If anything, they look better. Vandamandylate, which is like a measurement of adrenaline and noradrenaline, that was kind of high on you before, part of the overall, and that's like almost like a proxy adrenal marker, and that is now normal. That's now in range. When we look at your detox markers, they're doing still no signs of like any kind of major, environmental toxic exposure or anything like that. They look pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I will say that, well, no, that's even improved. So pyroglutamate has improved from where it was originally. So that shows, so pyroglutamate is that glutathione precursor. So that improvement in pyroglutamate shows that overall, like over a period of time, like a substantial period, the body has been managing inflammation better. And so it has had less oxidative stress happening. And so that lack of oxidative stress means that the body's internal glutathione can recover because it's not being challenged so much. And that's why we see that improvement, because overall you've had less inflammation for a long chunk of time. And then the last thing I want to look at here is, okay, and so there is also one slight issue that we're seeing on the test. So if you look at your creatinine, on this test is up at a 22.4, whereas it was in the green at a 12.9 on your old test. So creatinine is used because it has a constant flow rate through the kidneys. These other organic acids have different flow rates, and so the test is always calibrated to the creatinine marker, but it's sort of self-calculated. They don't do the calculation for you. So in a case like this, so what that means is that you were even a little bit more dehydrated when you took this current metabolomics than the other one. So markers are going to appear a little bit higher. We would usually sort of lower things by about 1 quintile. So like even those dysbiosis markers and stuff, they're not as high as they appear on this lab because the urine sample was more concentrated. So we have to always sort of think, okay, there's, some of these markers are probably not quite as strong as they look. Although I still stand by the fact that change in the dysbiosis load, that would not fully be accounted for by this, but it's not certainly going to be as strong. Okay, so, and then, yeah, man, and then the last thing is the two most critical markers on this entire test that looks at damage to tissue and inflammation problems is the lipid under oxidative damage, the lipid marker, and 8-OH-DG. And the lipid marker before was almost in the red. It was at a 9. That's because you were having a lot of damage done to tissue by inflammation and oxidative stress. And now it's all the way down at a 5.3, which is precisely where we want it. So there's actually been, if we were looking at this from purely a lab standpoint, there has been a lot of improvement, like almost across the board in terms of like the effects on the body and the healing of the body. I see something acutely challenging the gut right now, like I said. The adrenals have recovered pretty well. I would like to calm down the afternoon a little bit, maybe with like some fosserine or something, but like overall the adrenal output is looking well. So, and the last, we haven't talked that frequently in a long time, but the last bunch of times that I've talked to you, you have been doing pretty well. In fact, that was the purpose of our last conversation, was to run these labs to figure out where we might be able to optimize a little bit. So anyway, overall, lots of improvement. Probably if I was thinking next steps, I would be thinking about strategies on rebuilding a little bit more in the gut, or even possibly doing a second round of gut cleaning. Although I think we had requisitioned a GI lab, and so I just don't have any answers for you in terms of what is in there, what it could be, what we could be looking at. So anyway, hopefully that clarifies things for you. Obviously, you can now see why I wanted to do this as a video rather than try to do this in email, because it would have taken, it took me 14 minutes just to say this. So if you want to talk more, set up an appointment and we can discuss next steps. I'm sorry you're feeling down right now. That's why I think something inflammatory happened in the gut sometime in this last month or two, and you're now struggling with the effects of what that inflammation is pushing. Okay, hopefully that answers your questions. All right, take care, man.